What's the smallest amount of power you've seen someone drunk on? What is it with coffee? I used to supervise a shop on second shift and I ran a coffee fund for my employees with a pot I bought myself with no problems for years. One day I was called into human resources regarding one of my former employees who had just changed to first shift. I thought something serious had happened, but it turned out he had just made a comment about the community coffee being better than the coffee in the machines, and that was enough for my counterpart to turn my coffee pot into the office. It was explained to me by human resources that by my bringing in a communal coffee pot for my employees, I was creating an environment of favoritism in regards to the other departments. My workplace had free coffee years and years ago, before my time. It was cut in one of the rounds of budget cuts leading up to bankruptcy and never brought back. But the employees weren't allowed to have coffee funds either. The industrial coffee machine was removed and consumer ones at people's desks were considered a fire hazard. So the employees weren't given coffee, couldn't bring their own, and couldn't buy coffee anywhere within a 5-minute drive, leading to the creation of underground coffee collectives with names like the Coffee Mafia operating discreetly out of empty cubicles in dark corners of the building. They were eventually legalized, but the guerrilla attitude and aesthetics never changed. My workplace had free coffee years and years ago, before my time. It was cut in one of the rounds of budget cuts leading up to bankruptcy and never brought back. Not giving employees coffee is the dumbest thing you can do when running a business. It's literally productivity drugs. Doesn't even have to be fancy. A $20 drip machine, big-ass Costco-sized can of pre-ground beans is enough to keep 24 employees happy. But if you take it away, the worst part isn't that your workers are sleepy and slow. It's that they all now hate the company. They don't care if it loses money. They actively want the company to fail. Because once it fails, they'll collect unemployment and look for a job that does give them free coffee. I once helped with first aid at half marathon and one guy had a single job to do. He had to stand at the bottom of a road and direct the runners down one of two roads. Since there were barriers across the road, it was a no-brainer and impossible to screw up in any way, shape, or form. He decided that, despite the road being closed to traffic and contrary to the very simple instructions he was given, the runners must run on the pavement. Cars equals road, therefore on foot equals pavement. He screamed at them and forced hundreds of people to squeeze along the pavement, even chasing after anyone who put a foot on the road, yelling at them. People were tripping each other up in the small space, and when I got a couple of first aid patients, I called around to see if I could get someone to stop him because he was drunk on absolutely zero power. Eventually someone shifted him and left no replacement, not even a direction sign, and it all runs smoother than when he was there. Nobody took the wrong road, showing that he was less effective than empty space. A woman created a group on Facebook for one of my hobbies for organizing meetups and stuff like that. She shared it around on other groups and naturally hundreds of others joined. Things only went downhill after that. nobody was allowed to post except her. Seemingly every comment, mostly related to the meetup details, would set her off and cause her to lash out or ban a member completely. I got banned but can't remember the exact details. I think I responded to a post like "I can't make it, but everyone have fun," which prompted her to berate and guilt trip me. Eventually she went off the deep end and deleted the entire group to punish everyone. Somebody else created a new group, which everyone joined, and it is still going strong to this day. This one woman almost everyone hated was also the newest and lowest level employee at a place I used to work. When we got another employee that had literally the same job, the woman everyone hated took it upon herself to boss the new employee around. Out of 25 employees I was number 3, and I finally pulled the very new woman aside and told her she didn't have to take that crap and she was doing fine. Years ago, while driving the U.S. Gulf Coast from Texas to Florida, I was passing through Pensacola, Florida when I became confused about which turn I needed to take. I pulled just off the highway onto the edge of a massive empty parking lot and pulled out my large map. The nearest building was nearly a quarter of a mile away, and I was just on the edge of this gigantic, unfenced parking lot. A rent-a-cop drove all the way from the building in a golf cart, got out and shouted at me, "No parking. This is a private lot. You can't park here." I'm sitting there in a car with California tags, the engine running and a map spread out on my lap, and this idiot is telling me I can't park there. He looked like Eric Cartman, demanding that everyone respect my authority. I ignored him until I found the road I wanted and drove off. My father and I were doing a cross-country road trip with my travel trailer, and we decided to pull into a casino lot across the river from the Gateway Arch and snap a few pictures. The casino cops were on us in a heartbeat. "You need to take that to the campground. You can't park that here." I wondered to myself, but what if I just wanted to stop and gamble for a few hours and not spend the night? The lot was almost empty. It's not like they were in dire need of the parking spots we were using. We were able to convince them that we were only stopping for a few minutes to get pictures, and they grudgingly allowed it. But wow! The best MMO guild I was ever in was run by a guy who was a manager at a company that made games for feature phones, i.e. the ones before proper smartphones. Basically, he spent 8 hours a day at work telling nerds what to do. Then he came home, logged on EverQuest, and spent hours more telling nerds what to do. Get a job doing what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, they say. It used to be better in the days before the blacklist. Metal made it to the front page often, though there were lots of "Have any of you heard of this cool older band named Metallica?" posts even 10 years ago. So originally the blacklists were just for the couple of bands that covered the front page every day. Metallica, Black Sabbath, and so on. But every time the people found something that the subreddit's denizens liked, it would flood the front page for a few days, until it ended up on the blacklist and the people needed to find something else to meme about. r/Duggar snark is a great example of this. I used to lurk on that sub because it was centered around making fun of that crazy religious family in Arkansas with 19 kids. But then the mods somehow turned it into a fan sub and a few users spoke out about it. They were saying stuff like this is a snark sub. Why are we celebrating so-and-so Duggar's pregnancy or birthday? Those mods started banning users they thought were being too snarky, in a snark sub. They also honed in on these users who called them out. They'd openly bully these users and they eventually got Reddit to suspend these users' accounts. One of these mods was on their way to becoming a super mod, someone with absolutely no life who mods a bunch of subreddits, so they had some pull with the Reddit admins. Then I think the creator of the sub removed all these mods and added new mods. I unsubscribed a long time ago, so I don't know what it's like now. But yeah, some Reddit mods can be unbelievably toxic. You know that one week where Reddit pretended to care about Israel and Palestine? The r/public freakout mods started taking sides in the conflict. Don't get me wrong, it was an incredibly fucked up thing to see happen, but they started sending hate messages and banning people who made it clear which sides they were on. And they weren't doing it through DMS, they were doing it on posts. I once taught English in an international school in Egypt. The school was run by an army general in the Egyptian government, and was pretty poorly mismanaged. We had a guy there who was responsible for some general maintenance around the school, but happened to have his office in the same room as the copy machine. Every day, teachers would bring their papers to his room to copy them for class, and every day the man would tell us to leave it on his desk, where there'd be a pile of teacher copies needing to be made. He wanted to make the copies himself. It was not technically his job, but the machine was in his office, and by forcing people to copy through him, he seemed to keep some level of necessary status at school. Copies would always be late, sometimes not being available until the next day. Just depended on how the dude felt at that moment. Person face palming. I once volunteered as a health and wellness something or the other, forget the role, at my old job, thinking it would be something minor like getting people involved in some contests or giving out info for company perks like gym discounts. Instead, the HR dude who ran it took it on like it was our full-time job with weekly hourly meetings and wanted us to create contests and presentations within the office. With the nature of my job, it was impossible to devote that much time to such fluff and had to quit the role. Then they bitched about that too. I forget the circumstances, but once my wife and I ended up at a busy theme park during their Halloween festival with an entire booklet of front-of-the-line passes. I'm talking 150 of the suckers. Effectively infinite rides on a packed weekend. We rode so many roller coasters in a row that I was sick as a dog midway through the night. We still planned to enjoy the park, scare zones and food and such, but no longer had need of the blessed booklet. So we strolled through the festivities, arm in arm like amusement park gods, judging couples based on their costumes and demeanor, carefully deciding to whom we should bestow a night of infinite rides. When I was in my late teens, I got a job at the arcade inside my local mall. At first, I was so stoked because I was an avid arcade junkie and I thought it would end up being the most awesome place to work. Sadly, it was absolute misery due to the horrible human being that was the store manager. This woman was so absolutely bitter with her life that she made up for it by making life miserable for the young people who worked there. She was mean, cranky, condescending, and would do anything to make sure you understood it was her way or the highway. She'd worked for the arcade company for over 15 years, and I guess that is all she had. I was an RA and extremely uptight for my first year. I think I was such an asshole they put me into a legendary freshman party dorm, legendary as in, a lot of the students wanted to live there because their parents had lived there 30 years earlier and told them all about all the wild parties, hoping I could bring some order to the chaos. Joke's on them, because the very first weekend, I heard noise and loud music in the hall. I opened my door to see literal mosh pit levels of crowding as all the freshmen tried desperately to find alcohol, closed my door, and decided that the dorm would break me before I broke it. I went from "Excuse me, it's 11:01, and quiet hours start at 11 o'clock, uneasy face," to "Please put those 40s back inside your jacket so I can pretend I didn't see them in about 15 seconds. Long story short, I was 16 and working in a call center to afford rent and food when the supervisor took my chair away for failing to make enough sales of the stupid scam product we were hawking. It was a job done sitting at a little desk in front of a computer. Within an hour, I was bawling in some back office while a couple of aggressive adults demanded I sign a legal agreement before they'd let me leave the building. The paper basically said that they'd done nothing wrong, that their management's actions had nothing to do with me quitting, and that I promised not to sue them for any reason. Pretty sure it's some kind of criminal thingy when adults hold a minor in a locked room and won't let them leave, but what did I know? I was only 16. Yes. A young couple brought a puppy into the store where I work. Only service animals are permitted. Manager did the standard service dog questioning and the girl holding the puppy said it wasn't a service animal. Manager asked her to take the puppy out, apologetically. The guy with the girl loses his shit, starts arguing, getting loud and making a scene. His tantrum wasn't having the effect he wanted, everyone is pretty much laughing at him, and he spirals into this "don't you know who I am" tirade. I have 2 million followers, bitch. What do you have? You ain't got shit. I was in awe of his bizarre social currency leverage meltdown. Oh man, I have related to this so many times. When I worked at a beer garden, I stopped giving a shit and gave people who treated me like crap a lot of obvious nice attitude. Like give them a fake smile and stare at them dead in the eyes the whole time, and then talk to them like they were a 5-year-old. But then I would be genuinely nice to everyone around them because it's not their fault they're with the asshole. Most of the time they would change their behavior by the end of the meal because it wouldn't be fun for them. Sometimes assholes need to be, assholed back.